This is Roseanne. If you're unfamiliar with Roseanne, she had that famous TV show, Roseanne. And she also got really racist on Twitter like a while back and started calling black people apes and stuff. Like, oh my God, dude. She was trying to start up a reboot of the Roseanne show and it just fell flat. She's unglued from reality. Like, I don't know what other word to use. And she interviewed Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people. I want to listen to what they had to say to each other. Bound to be psychotic. As far as I've seen, there's like some anti-vax stuff in here and stuff. So it's going to be fascinating. While we listen to these two nutter butters of epic proportions, we're going to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. Just be in the background. Shouldn't bother you too much. You never played before. All right, check this out. We're jumping in a few seconds in.
It's such an exciting one for the Roseanne Barr podcast because I have a great guest, MTG, and you know what that means. Yeah,
It means Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I don't even need to say it. Check it out, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
So you see.
You know, in all seriousness, there's something like not right here with Roseanne. I don't know what's up, but it feels like there's something that like really went wrong in her head.
I'm happy to be here today, and I hope the animals are watching. I really do.
Oh, I'm sure they are. They're intelligent life.
That's right.
All intelligent life will be tuned right here
Okay.
today when they understand what we're going to talk about.
Good.
Do you agree?
I totally agree with you.
Because it's truth, right? You don't get a lot of that, do you?
Okay, the truth, the hard truth that Roseanne is laying down that nobody else will come out and say is that intelligent life tunes in to watch this episode of her podcast. And she's sick of the fact that nobody is just saying it like it is. Okay? Dude, what is wrong with these people?
No, truth is, I think truth is under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack.
That's right.
She doesn't even know how to respond to that stupid shit. In all fairness, I wouldn't either.
And they're doing everything they can to silence those that are telling the truth.
Well,
Totally.
that's why I feel sorry for you, because you're right there in the, Daniel, the lion's den of lies, wall-to-wall lies.
Yeah.
How can you stand it?
I hate it. So I call Washington, D.C. the District of Communism because
Oh my God, dude, the District of Communism. What a joke, seriously. You know that, I don't like bringing it back to Hitler every single time, but I do want to point out, fascinatingly, that this whole communism thing, this fear-mongering about communism coming to hurt you or whatever, this is exactly how Hitler got people worked into a blood frenzy in Germany during World War II, or World War II era, or whatever. He freaked people out about communism, convinced them that it was coming to get them and their children, and it was going to gobble them all up or whatever. Talked about communism nonstop, practically. Communism, Marxism, socialism. Well, not socialism, because it had a different meaning at the time. Communism, Marxism, and a bunch of other things that he demonized nonstop. So anyway, it's really interesting to listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene and other politicians, Trump and stuff, fearmonger about communism nonstop.
it feels like a foreign country.
It is a foreign country.
It truly is. And there's so many foreigners there because they're all interested in their countries.
Talking about foreigners in D.C., okay.
And unfortunately, the federal government is too interested in everyone else's country. And they have totally abandoned Americans, the American taxpayer. Forget having a border. We don't have a border anymore.
Yes, we do.
And the people there, I literally think a lot of them are traitors.
I have to agree. I think the lot of them, not a lot.
Yeah.
The lot of them are traitors.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
They can,
Yeah, this is one thing I suppose we can agree on, that there are a great many traitors in Washington, D.C. In fact, we're looking at one right now on screen. Well, this is Roseanne, so she's probably a traitor, but I'm talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
continue on as if they're never going to get caught or there's never going to be a reckoning of any sort. They're not even worried.
No,
Maybe they are in private, but
I think they are worried, and I think that's why we are seeing the extreme persecution of January 6th defendants.
Extreme persecution of January 6th defendants. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, man, if I took part in an attempted insurrection on the U.S. government and I was part of the planning arm of this insurrection, and was sentenced to 20 years for it, I feel like that would be pretty justified.
I think that this is the message that's being sent loud and clear to all Americans, that if you ever rise up and challenge your government, which the Constitution...
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. I mean, you can challenge them in the form of protest. That's never been... Well, that shouldn't be illegal, put it that way. That shouldn't be illegal to challenge in the form of protest, but that's not what happened on January 6th. People got violent against the Capitol, against Congress, against the U.S. government generally, on Trump's behalf. God, dude, I can't... How are they justifying this nonsensical garbage for themselves? This is just wild to me.
Gives Americans the right to do that.
Right.
Address grievances with your government. I think that this is why they're persecuting those people, to warn Americans, don't mess with the federal government.
I think it's like an example.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope people realize you shouldn't mess with the federal government like that.
Making an example out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, making an
test
example
case.
of them.
Test case. That's what they did to me. I feel like I was their test case for,
Who is they?
I was the first one that got their magnificent cancel culture aimed at. But I think that what they're trying...
Okay, this is not cancel culture, all right? Roseanne was not the victim of cancel culture or whatever. Roseanne was talking about one of Obama's aides or workers or somebody in the White House under Obama, and she called... It was Valerie Jarrett? Called her an ape. A black aide. Called her an ape. Said it looks like Planet of the Apes in here. And then afterward said, I'm sorry, I was Ambien tweeting. Ambien, the official Twitter account or whatever, said racism is not a side effect of Ambien. That's not cancel culture. That's you being a scumbag and everybody recognizing it as such. There's like a perpetual victimhood problem with these people. Seriously. Get over yourselves. Quick interjection, this won't take long, I promise. I'd appreciate it if you watched to the end of the video, or at least a couple extra seconds, because YouTube bases its algorithm off of watch time. The more watch time a video has, the further the video will go. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion, and the history of the religion generally. The 100 questions are intended to challenge a religious leader, so I'd appreciate it if you give it a read. Okay, back to the video.
Trying to do is to provoke people who love this country and love the fact that it's a constitutional republic and that we have a guaranteed Bill of Rights. And
what you talking about? Nobody's trying to provoke anybody into anything. And by the way, that is peaceful protest. You're allowed to provoke people or whatever. Allowed to do whatever you want. Yell whatever you want, just about. Very few limitations. It's just like part of how it all works. But that was provoking people, I guess, into rioting on the Capitol and trying to do an insurrection or whatever. Okay.
And that we're going to stand behind it. So I think they're just kind of, it used to be that, that story where the emperor's naked and everybody's like, nobody tell, and they're like, oh,
the emperor has no clothes.
Oh, you look great in your French designed outfit, but somebody goes, hey, you're naked as a jaybird. And then everybody's like, takes them a minute, but they go, yeah, you're naked. They join in.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what movie she's talking about. That's just like an old story, isn't it? But I'm going to try to work that sentence into my vocabulary moving forward. Naked as a jaybird. I'm a big fan of that saying.
To mock the person in power. But I think that everybody knows he's naked. He knows we know he's naked. The
How did we end up talking about Joe Biden being naked?
emperor. But that's not enough for him. He's got to put his wiener right in our face on top
Okay, wow. This has taken an additional step that I did not see.
of it. He's got to come. That's what they were doing, is marching down the street and putting their wieners right on display there
Right.
Who?
to show us you can't do nothing about nothing.
That's right.
But it's almost as if they want to go, come on, do something about it.
Yeah.
So then they can start the big crackdown. And I think people are so smart.
Dude, I feel I'm so lost. What the hell is she talking about? Giant crackdown What? I'm on the struggle bus over here, guys. We still haven't identified who they is.
Something about it.
Yeah.
So then they can start the big crackdown. And I think people are so smart that they're like, I'm not going to be pushed into this reactionary thing. They want me so they can take everything I have and put me in prison.
Again, I don't know who they is. In this context, I assume she's talking about the U.S. government / Democrats, whatever that even means exactly. But it seems to me that if the U.S. government wanted to take things from people, then they could just take things from people. It wouldn't have to they wouldn't have to do things to create a justification. They could just justify it. Simple as that. They're taking people's rights away is never justified. So it doesn't matter what excuse you use. It's going to be equally as invalid as the last. Now, I don't know what she's talking about here. The government is, presumably the government, is trying to force you to react to a provocation or whatever. You are in control of you, okay? Nobody needs to provoke you into anything to take your rights away. You need to not be a scumbag. What the hell is happening right now?
You're right.
People are so smart, they can see
You're right,
the writing
Roseanne.
on the wall, don't you think?
And I can tell you that's true because people don't come to Washington anymore.
right.
They just don't show.
Yes, they do. I just went to Washington, D.C. Last year or something to visit. People don't come to Washington, D.C.
Up anymore.
Yeah.
Before January 6th, people would come, they would protest, they would come talk to their congressmen, their senators.
She's talking about lobbying. I've lobbied. What are you talking about? People don't do that. Yes, they do.
They would have rallies, and we don't see very few people show up anymore. I
Well,
think
what
you're
about
right.
all Hamas was just there, though?
They show up.
Yeah.
But they're supported.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they're
welcome.
supported by the intelligence community. They're protected.
I am so confused. Hamas is protected by the intelligence community? These people really do live in an alternate universe, don't they? Completely detached from reality. Where are they coming up with all of this nonsensical garbage? Quick interjection. This won't take long, I promise. I just want to say I'd appreciate it if you check my Patreon. OwenMorgan.com/Patreon to find it. YouTube's algorithm goes up and down, so I can never predict where it's going to be. Having patrons gives me some level of stability. Okay, back to the video.
They're so protected.
That's right.
Here's these January 6 guys that are in prison, a triple Purple Heart winner. That breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So he was wounded in battle 3 times, or wounded in the military, I guess, 3 times at least. Okay. Well, those 3 times that he was wounded, I guess, he wasn't, taking part in an insurrection on the U.S. government. So that's probably why he got jailed this go around.
Patriot who put his life on the line for the country and got 3 Purple Hearts.
Look, I don't care how many Purple Hearts you have. You can have 17 of them. You're not allowed to take part in an insurrection on the U.S. government.
Can't see his baby daughter because he's in prison
That's
in
right.
the Gulag, Washington, D.C. But yet Hamas comes in and sits there, and they do the things that you do when you insurrect.
What? Hamas is there in D.C. and they do the things you do when you insurrect. That is a fascinating line right there. That's a keeper. Hamas is not in Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, they're not even in the United States. Okay, Hamas cares about controlling the controlling the Gazan government, not even Palestinian government. Hamas doesn't exist in the West Bank. They only care about controlling the Gazan government. Funny enough, Israel actually supplied funding to Hamas, donated to them, and tried to put them into a position of power because there's a peaceful coalition that was that was very close to taking control, who was already kind of running things. And the Israeli government didn't want them to be peaceful. They wanted them to be malicious and violent so they could justify going in and taking Gaza. Dead serious. Look this up if you don't believe me. Israel funded Hamas, the Hamas political arm or whatever, to help them come to power originally. Anyway, the point is that all of this Hamas nonsense is completely made up. Palestinians are not all Hamas members. Hamas is not here in the United States lobbying the U.S. government successfully or whatever. My God. I totally expected Roseanne and Marjorie Taylor Greene, honestly, to be anti-Israel because of Marjorie Taylor Greene's space laser comments. You guys remember that? Jewish space lasers or whatever? Jesus, dude. But she's an evangelical Christian extremist, so naturally she has to support Israel at all costs. Not because she likes Jews. She fucking hates Jews, actually. But she wants to support Israel because that's a pretext, or not a pretext. That is a precondition of God coming back, or of Jesus like controlling the world or whatever. It must exist.
That's
None
right.
of which the people did on January 6th.
Oh, no.
And they don't even take their names.
No, well, I can tell you what they did do because it happened in my office building. So, and then I have my book. So, talk about January 6th. I was in the House chamber, and I hope people get a copy. And the second chapter is all about January 6th because
It's just wild to me how they've completely rewritten January 6th like this. In 1923, there was an attempted insurrection in Germany also. It was called the Beer Hall Putsch. And Hitler was still very young and not really in control of anything yet. The Nazi Party wasn't terribly popular, but there were some people that supported the Nazi Party. Well, Hitler kind of organized a riot and sicked it on the Capitol building there in Germany called the Reichstag building. And all of the people ended up in front of the building with some congressmen or Reichstag members held captive. Hitler pushes his way to the front of the crowd and orders these Reichstag members to appoint Nazis to a position in government. And it would have worked, just like January 6th would have worked. It would have worked if they had cut communications to the outside the city, but they didn't. And the military was notified of what was happening, and they sent people in to fight against the Beer Hall Putsch to put down this insurrection. And that's what happened. They put it down. Hitler was sentenced to 5 years in prison for high treason, only served 9 months. They wanted to give him death guards so he couldn't talk his way out of it. Seriously. Anyway, the point is that this stuff has all happened before, and it's uncanny and wild to see it playing out again. While Hitler was in jail, he actually he wrote a lot about propaganda and the methods he intended to use to come back to the top. One of the methods he intended to use was to rewrite the history of the Beer Hall Putsch, P-U-T-C-H, to be one where the Beer Hall Putsch participants were innocent. They were honest, hardworking people who were just sick of what was happening in the world, and they just wanted to fix everything and blah, blah, blah. You know how they do. It's all playing out exactly the same way as January 6th, as Donald Trump and his whole thing played out. It is uncanny. He wrote Mein Kampf in prison. Did he? I didn't realize that was in prison. Interesting. Yeah. I've thought about reading Mein Kampf, but I haven't because I understand that it's not really valuable. It's not useful information. It's just ravings of a madman. If I thought it'd be useful and interesting, I would give it a read, but anyway.
I was there when it happened. We were objecting to Joe Biden's fraudulent electoral college votes.
Right.
I don't care how many people make fun of me. The election was stolen. I'll say it
100%.
all day long.
Oh my God, dude. I find it so fascinating that she was there and was in danger for her life. And her life was in danger. She's in fear for her life. And she still wrote a book about how nothing went wrong and it was totally justified and it was fine and everything else. This is just wild to me.
I know it
It's
too.
the truth.
Yeah,
We
for
all
real.
know it.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
And then people came in the Capitol, and I wrote all about that. And then that same year, just some months later, I went into the D.C. jail and visited the men that were being held there, being held on solitary lockdown for 20.
Oh, give me a fucking break, man. When has she ever cared about solitary confinement or people sitting in prison or whatever? This is literally the first time, and by the way, the last time she has ever cared about the judicial system or victims of it or whatever you want to call it. She doesn't care about anybody else in jails. Notice she's talking about the January 6th defendants suffering under 22-hour lockdown or whatever, not the jail that they're in, but the people specifically, that's because she doesn't give a shit about the jails or the judicial system. She cares about the January 6th people and only them. This is from mid-May 2022, about a year and a half after January 6th played out, give or take.
To match them. We have been denied the ability to go back and have a tour. We've been denied even a phone call and an answer back. So that's why we're here today at her office to say you need to give us a visit. You owe this to all of the people that we represent across
Actually, nobody owes anything to anybody in this scenario.
the country. And then this city needs cleaned up. There's homeless people all over the city. Crime is out of control, and it has a jail that is clearly a dangerous place.
Really? How? Specifically? Can you give me specific examples of how it's dangerous? Also, I went to Washington, D.C., and I didn't see any evidence of homeless people or crime being out of control or any of the stuff that she's talking about right now. It was even, it was even after this. Yeah, it may have been around this time, or maybe it was a year later or something like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene is completely full of shit here. Oh, and by the way, guy on the right, this is Louis Gohmert. He's terrible, and he's been terrible for years and years and years. But, interestingly, he was kicked out of Congress, basically. He lost his election. I can't even believe he lost. That's just like some of the best news that I ever got. Sometimes all you hear is the bad stuff, And people completely ignore or don't talk about the good stuff, like Louis Gohmert getting kicked out of Congress. That couldn't have had a better outcome, honestly.
To be because they're dying last week, and then these pre-trial January 6th defendants have been held months on end, being abused as political prisoners of war by not only federal judges, prosecutors of the Department of Justice, but also the D.C. jail where Kathleen Landerkin is probably still the deputy warden, and she
I don't know what she's talking about here.
Says herself how much she hates Republicans, hates Trump, and hates.
Yeah, this sounds like complete bullshit to me, but yeah, I would have to look deeper. I find it interesting she calls them political prisoners of war, though, right? Prisoners of war. To be a prisoner of war means that you're fighting on the side of an opposing country, doesn't it? Prisoners of war? So is this like Marjorie Taylor Greene admitting that she's giving aid and comfort to an opposing nation? An enemy state of the United States? I don't know how else to interpret this, honestly.
People that are being held in the jail.
Anyway, yeah, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about the January 6th people. I don't know how she does this.
23 hours a day. I mean, living in horrific conditions. Some of the jail cells didn't have working toilets, so they would stay.
I don't believe some of this. Yes, there are jails and jail cells that are in bad shape, that are a real mess. But guess what? The security guards, the jail workers, and others, they have to clean that shit up, literally, if their toilets aren't working or whatever. So they usually keep on top of a lot of this stuff just so they don't have extra work. I mean, sure, yeah, jail conditions are really bad sometimes, really, really bad, and it's unacceptable. But what Marjorie Taylor Greene is describing here doesn't sound like just absolutely, it doesn't sound, what Marjorie Taylor Greene is describing here does not sound plausible to me in a federal jail. This is probably medium security prison, I imagine. Another thing, like what she's saying, 23-hour lockdown, the way it works, if you've never been to jail, never, been affiliated with it or whatever, is you have a jail cell which holds 2 people, and outside of that jail cell, you have a pod. The pod has 6 to 10 jail cells in it. So you have between 12 and 20 people per pod. And then the pod is locked also. Each jail cell commonly has like a window to the outside or a window to another area or whatever. And then the pods are organized in like wings or wards or whatever. 23-hour lockdown means from noon to 2 p.m. every single day. You can come out of your cell and walk around the pod, hang out with people, play cards, chat, whatever. That's what that means, 22-hour lockdown. It's not actually as bad as they're portraying here. Now, don't get me wrong, it's pretty terrible, but it's not like they're isolated completely from society, from any other human contact or whatever. The only time that they were in solitary confinement is if they needed protective detail, like they were in danger for their lives, so they put them in their own separate cell, or they were being bad. They did something that was unacceptable. Like, I don't know, they cooked, or they made wine in their toilet, for example, just throwing something out there. Or they stabbed somebody, or they beat somebody up, or whatever. That's what gets you put in solitary. So anyway, this whole picture that she's drawing here is a misrepresentation of what's happening. Like, I'm not opposed to jails existing. I think that society does need to be protected sometimes from some people, murderers and assaulters and others. But we should make sure that the conditions are fair and decent. Everybody has a right to 3 meals a day and a warm bed, and a right to life and to not being mistreated, a right to the feeling of safety and security. Anyway, Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't put that much thought into anything at all. She doesn't care about any of that stuff. She cares about propagandizing and freaking people out. Anyway, 22-hour lockdown does suck, actually. From noon to 2 p.m., they can come out. Usually it's like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., for example, 12-hour lockdown. You can do whatever you want for those few hours, and that's not so bad, I suppose.
Some of the jail cells didn't have working toilets, so they would stay in the cell 22 to 23 hours a day without a working toilet.
Yeah, I'm super skeptical. I don't believe this for a second. Again, she's talking about the January 6th prisoners, not prisoners generally. She doesn't give a shit about them.
And then they would be let out, and they were given the option, and it was an option. Call your family, or go outside, or call your attorney, or take a shower.
People are allowed to call their attorneys. Like, I don't think that can be stopped. I think that's like a legal right that you must be afforded, to call your attorney at certain times of the day at the very least. It sounds like she's just like fabricating shit right out of the ether here.
For in their 1 to 2 hours, they were out of their jail cells. And that's the kind of treatment they were receiving. And that went on for months and months and months.
Well, that's cruel and
over a year.
unusual punishment against their constitutional rights,
Again, if they gave a shit, it'd be different. They don't.
isn't it?
It is, but the people you're talking about, the ceasefire now, pro-Hamas, they call themselves pro-Palestinian. I don't give a crap about any of that. They are pro-terrorism, and they came in and did the exact same thing that many January 6th defendants did. They came in, they illegally occupied the Cannon House office building. That happened.
Just complete bullshit. Okay, one of them was peaceful, and the other was an attempted insurrection on the U.S. government. They're completely different scenarios, and she must know that. Marjorie Taylor Greene can't possibly not be aware of that fact. It's just disgusting how she propagandizes non-stop. It's lie after lie after lie.
Happened in my office. Over 300 of them were arrested. Several of them attacked police officers. Not one of them are sitting in the D.C. gulag.
Nope.
None of them are being
It's because this is like all lies.
arrested and prosecuted by Matthew Graves, the U.S. Attorney at the Department of Justice. Total double standard.
It is, and it's so obvious, and it's so in everybody's face, and yet, I mean, Twitter is where they manufacture consent, and it's all probably...
Dude, I love that she's using a word that was created by a left-winger, Noam Chomsky. She's talking about manufactured consent. That's just like the peak irony right there.
I mean, and up until Elon bought it, it was all manufactured consent and manufactured dissent, too.
Of course.
She doesn't have any idea what that term even means, does she?
I just robots and trolls and stuff but they're still doing it. I mean, I guess it has changed somewhat that they're letting old patriot, people back on and stuff such as Alex Jones and stuff.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Super patriotic.
I mean, they so smugly sit there
Mhm.
and root for people to lose their constitutional rights.
That's
Yeah, except it's not a constitutional right to have a Twitter account. Oh my God. She doesn't understand the first thing about anything, does she?
right.
And I cannot believe that they actually think that there isn't going to be a day of reckoning for people
By the way, who is they?
who root against the country, who root to break down the laws of our constitutional republic.
I'm not rooting for that. I want our constitutional republic to be honored. I want the laws in our constitutional republic or whatever to be respected. Absolutely. What is she going on about right now?
Do they not think we can see them?
I do think they think. I think they know the American people are upset. They see the polling numbers. They can't. No one can deny the tens of thousands of people that show up for President Trump.
Right.
No one can deny what people are saying, especially when they're answering.
Yeah, poll numbers are not showing that Donald Trump is like far and away the most popular person in the United States. He's very controversial, first of all. And second, when did she start trusting polls?
For President Trump.
Right.
No one can deny what people are saying, especially when they're answering questions on these polls and these calls. It is definitely coming. And I think the Washington establishment knows it's coming, and they're trying to do everything they can to prevent it. They're in complete prevent defense mode.
Yeah.
And I think,
What are they mostly trying to prevent? It seems like, well, the Epstein list.
oh
They're
yeah,
terrified. They
Are you talking about the Epstein list, right? Is that the one that Donald Trump was on? You know, Donald Trump, famously friend to Jeffrey Epstein, dude that got like his picture taken with Epstein a whole bunch, said that Jeffrey Epstein likes girls young and he shares that opinion or something to that effect. We're talking about the same Jeffrey Epstein. I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same guy. So she wants Epstein's list of famous people that are friends with him. Okay.
don't want that out, right?
right. Well, there seems to be this rise among the people demanding the truth. Everyone wants the Epstein list.
Right.
People want to know about the UAPs. People are like, what are these UFOs and UAPs?
Oh my God, dude.
People want to know about the Kennedy files.
Right.
People want to know all about the Department of Justice. And
You know, Donald Trump could have released like all of this stuff. He could have released information about everything that she's listing right now, but for some reason chose not to. Huh. Weird. Wonder why.
these terrible persecutions.
Maybe because there's nothing there and she's completely full of shit. You think that's a possibility?
People want to know the truth out of the federal government, and they have every right to know it.
Absolutely.
They want to know about, Pfizer. They want to know about the vaccines. They want to know about Fauci, and they deserve it.
I know.
And people deserve the truth, but it seems to me there's like this rising swell of people that maybe never paid attention to politics before, but they're getting hungry for the truth, and I think that's the
true,
day of
too.
reckoning.
I do too.
That-
I think the day of reckoning is, if there is going to be an election. I wanted to ask you if you think there is, because I think it
Are you serious? Roseanne thinks there isn't going to be any election. Okay.
could go either way, depend on what they do between now and then.
Mhm.
Because they could do a lot of dirty things and just say, oh, well, when they figure, hey, we can't cheat because they're going to make us do the paper ballot and the voter ID, so we can't obviously cheat, so we'll just shut down everything.
Mhm.
This is honestly sad. There is no election cheating going on the way that these people are portraying. In my opinion, the election cheating happened when Donald Trump chose, what was it, Louis DeJoy, I think, as the USPS, the Postal Service General, or whatever the hell they call him. And he slowed down the mail to prevent mail-in ballots from reaching their destination on time right before the election took place. And when people were voting by mail because COVID had just hit. COVID was preventing people from going out and doing their thing. These people are shameless. They lie like they breathe.
Including the internet, and nobody will go anywhere, and they'll just sit home.
Or like
They've already
Zelensky
done
did.
that to us with the quarantine.
Absolutely. And that's what the great democracy of Ukraine did.
Mhm.
They canceled their elections.
Right.
And Washington.
Like, I don't know what she's even going on about right now. Did somebody say that Ukraine is like the bastion of democracy? I didn't say that, although I do support their cause. And I do think that they stand for democracy. But Russia has been with their democracy like nobody's business for like years and years, trying to get somebody in there who's going to be pro-Russia. And for that reason, you can never be sure if like the person that got in is pro-Russia because Russia put them in or what. It's kind of a mess intentionally. So I don't know what they're going on about here. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
D.C. thinks Ukraine is the greatest. I mean, that's their
Absolutely.
51st state of America. So why wouldn't they do it here in our country?
Why is she so opposed to Ukraine?
They're
Well,
always
I thought
praising the democracy of Ukraine. But no elections. They canceled their elections.
Mhm.
They
Again, I don't know what she's talking about here.
totally silence people on social media. They throw their press in jail.
Mhm.
Full clampdown. That is not
Like, this is all nonsense.
a democracy. I mean, it's a tyrannical government that we pay for. $1 billion.
What she's saying here is that she's referring to how RT was banned in Russia. It was banned in Ukraine. It was removed. It was actually banned in Europe too, I think, because it's Russia Today. It's Russian state media that does nothing but propagandize nonstop. So, naturally, Ukraine would remove that from the airwaves because Russia was waging a war against them of information and otherwise. But yeah, sure, they threw journalists in jail, totally, 100%.
A month.
Jeez.
The American
month.
a month. People think it's been just 100.
Sorry, step back here.
Not a democracy. I mean, it's a tyrannical government that we pay for. $1 billion a month.
Jeez.
The American
month.
a month. People think it's been just 113 billion that Congress allotted and they've been doling out. It's $1 billion a month that our country pays for and props.
Wait, $1 billion per month. People think it's $1 billion per month, but I'm sorry. She said people think it's $113 billion that Congress just gives to them over a period of time. Actually, no, it's $1 billion per month. Is she trying to like hurt her case or help it? I think, I don't remember the number. I think it's something like half of all support that the U.S. gives to Ukraine is given in the form of material aid. Every 5 years or so, the United States has to kind of replenish our supplies for the army. We have to get new guns. We have to get new MREs, meals ready to eat. You have to get new uniforms and helmets and jeeps and everything else every 5 years or so, because after 5 years, this stuff starts to have problems. And we were throwing this stuff out to resupply our army with new stuff. But instead of throwing it out, we gave it to Ukraine as part of the aid package. And that money, or not money, but like those supplies or whatever, are going toward fighting a historical adversary. Not someone who the U.S. necessarily views as an adversary, someone who views themselves as an adversary. Russia hates the United States and the U.S. government, always has, basically. That is money that we couldn't possibly spend better to humiliate a historical adversary who is trying to meddle with our electoral process and everything. So this money couldn't possibly be better spent, honestly. Also, as a side note, completely unrelated, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but the United States apparently ran a PSYOP in the Philippines and other countries in Asia, fear-mongering about China's vaccine, spreading false information about how China caused the virus and then made the vaccine for it, and they're just trying to benefit from it, so on and so forth. It was really messed up and sad. So anyway, we just found out about that recently. It's just disgusting. That's totally unrelated. I just thought it was interesting and something I think everyone should know about. Meals rejected by Ethiopians? I haven't heard that. That's funny. Not PC. That's what I heard in 87. Interesting. Excuse me, 89. Hey, I was born in 89. I understand MREs have some thing where they heat up based on, like, I think it's like a chemical reaction or something causes the water to heat up in them. I don't know exactly, but a buddy of mine said that he used to like put water in the MRE and it would spray out if he opened it up, and it was like his shower. He'd have it spray all over him. Just checking here. And thousands of Filipinos died from not being vaccinated. I know. It's just disgusting, dude. I don't accept it when Russia does it. I don't accept it when the U.S. does it either. It's just evil.
Up their government.
Well, they tell us that we can't afford health care.
Mm-hmm.
You can only get Obamacare, which is a giveaway to the insurance companies.
Of course.
What? Obamacare? You can only get Obamacare. We can't get health care. We can only get Obamacare. What is she talking about? This is a good example of somebody talking about a subject that she knows nothing about, has no clue what she's talking about here. And she's just like spouting off about complete nonsense. Obamacare is healthcare. It is simply a marketplace that makes healthcare less expensive for everybody, and it subsidizes insurance. So it gives people medical insurance for less money than it cost originally. They're giving people breaks on insurance premiums and stuff. How can that possibly be interpreted as bad? The hell?
Of course.
We'll talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a showman.
Mm-hmm.
What a
Obama?
what a liar excelente.
Mm-hmm.
But they just love him. I can't stand it. But anyway, the truth does need to come out. But yeah, they want to prevent the truth about Obama, I think, about the Obama administration and how
Who is they?
exactly like the Bush administration it was. We say, people I talk to, we say Bush-Obama.
Right.
Because,
In what circumstance could you possibly say Bush-Obama and it would make any sense at all? Like, it's like saying Billary for Bill and Hillary Clinton. When could you possibly say that it wouldn't be nonsense?
it was taking the rights away from the American people all the way through it.
That's right.
Through the whole Kennedy thing, all through it. The same hands.
Yep.
Right?
Well, that's true because it was in 2008, the last year of Bush's presidency, that they created Section 702 of the FISA court.
Right.
And now look at the abuse that carried on through the Obama administration, and then horrifically, especially in 2021, with over 278,000 Americans being spied on by the FBI, by the federal government through.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's wrong, I suppose. But based on Marjorie Taylor Greene's record of getting shit wrong 24/7, I'm going to be super skeptical here.
FISA. No, I completely agree with you. What's the difference in the Bushes and the Obamas and the Clintons? I mean,
they all hang out. They like Michelle Obama called.
Oh, yeah, you know who else hangs out with the Bushes, the Obamas, and the Clintons? Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, there are pictures of Trump hanging out with Hillary Clinton, his kids meeting her years ago. Seriously. They're talking so much smack about Billary and Bush-Obama, if you will, completely bypassing all of the stuff about Trump.
Bush, her partner in crime, he gives her little candies and they have a big laugh.
he also paints strange paintings of himself in the bathtub in the shower.
I'm sorry? Who does this?
Called Bush, her partner in crime.
Bush paints pictures of himself in the shower? These people, let me rephrase. Roseanne Barr, and I say this without a hint of irony or sarcasm, Roseanne Barr and Marjorie Taylor Greene, both, they need help. Like, genuinely, they need help. Something needs to change here. It's not right. This is absolutely insane.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's definitely-
Hunter, so he doesn't show up. It's no big deal. They don't ban him. They don't go and get him at the airport.
Yeah,
and
can
put
we
him
talk? Can we talk about that? What
Yeah.
happened? Because
Yes. So I'm on the oversight committee, and
Is this Steve Bannon they're talking about, I think?
we've been leading the investigation, and it's into Joe Biden.
Right.
Hunter
of course.
Biden is he's the gateway.
Yeah.
Right.
The laptop's absolutely real.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Like, I have so much trouble believing any of this stuff. So, Hunter Biden has a laptop that he supposedly left at like a laptop repair place or whatever with a blind repairman. I'm sorry, man. I'm just super skeptical here. I'm having a hard time believing this. The whole thing is super questionable and was pegged as Russian disinformation years ago.
The entire media establishment lied to the American people. 51 intelligence.
All the intelligence people lied
Which
to
was
us.
election
Those people
fraud.
should be prosecuted for that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They wrote, so I think 40 previous intelligence community workers wrote a letter basically saying this is definitely Russian information or Russian disinformation. They should be prosecuted for expressing their opinion on a subject that they know a lot about. Freedom.
51 intelligence.
All the intelligence people lied
Which
to
was
us.
election
Those people
fraud.
should be prosecuted for that.
Yes, they should.
They should be prosecuted.
And that's election interference.
It is.
100%.
Right, that's the
Even if-
fraudulent
even if- I would say
election right
even if
there.
the
Yes.
votes were
Plus
perfect.
Google and everything else
Yeah.
they did. There's
Yeah.
300
They did Google?
levels to their fraudulent election.
Absolutely. And that's a big one. And it's
Dude, I love how that guy was trying to get a word in edgewise and he couldn't and he just gave up. He just like stopped talking. Usually I feel bad for that kind of thing, you know, when somebody can't get a word in like that. But I'm having a hard time feeling bad for these people after all of the damage that they do to society.
Levels to their fraudulent election.
absolutely. And that's a big one. And it's not, we don't do enough about it. So we had him coming in. And in oversight, in committee hearings, whenever you
I think they're talking about Steve Bannon now.
subpoena someone, you always do a private deposition. And then later you do a public hearing.
Uh-huh.
That's what they did to the Trump kids.
That's not necessarily how it works. Sometimes you do that.
Don
Right.
Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Kimberly Guilfoyle had to go through it. All
Over
of
and
them.
over for hours.
Yes, hours and hours.
Well, I mean, they broke the law, so
They did the private depositions, then they came in for the public hearings. So we had Hunter coming in just last week.
why? Why did Hunter come in? What was he doing? He broke some law that has absolutely no connection to the House of Representatives. Why did they call him in? If somebody breaks the law and there's like a serious problem that needs to be resolved that calls for Congress to address it or whatever, I'm all for Congress addressing it. What did Hunter Biden do that warrants Congress creating an oversight committee for it or whatever? And also, why do I care about Hunter Biden? He doesn't have anything to do with anything. He's not the president. He's not running for president. He's not connected to the president's campaign or any of that stuff. You know who was connected to the president's campaign, though? Kimberly Guilfoyle, which is, I think, Don Jr.'s wife. Also, she was previously married to Gavin Newsom. That's weird. Don Jr. connected to the presidency. Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, all of these people, all connected to the Trump presidency. Calling them in for a deposition or for testimony in front of the House is totally justified. They were all connected to the Trump presidency, which broke laws. What did Hunter Biden do exactly to warrant this?
And he was supposed to come in sit for the private deposition, had been subpoenaed, agreed to come in. We're all prepared for him.
I don't think he was subpoenaed.
He shows up about an hour and a half late, goes to the Senate side of the Capitol where Eric Swalwell had reserved him the press circle where he could hold a press conference, holds a press conference, lies in his press conference about
Hunter Biden?
everything, and then leaves and doesn't even show up for his deposition.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I just hard doubt. And you know what? If he didn't show up for a deposition that he was subpoenaed for, then he should face the same consequences as Steve Bannon, which is who she's talking about right now. She's complaining that Hunter Biden gets special treatment. I'm just like having a hard time believing a word out of their mouths.
Then he just walks away from it. What's going to happen?
We are going to hold him in contempt of Congress, which
Okay.
is the same thing the Democrats did to like Peter Navarro,
Yeah.
Steve Bannon.
Right.
Okay, these are very different scenarios, completely different scenarios, with Peter Navarro especially. All the people that she's listing right now are actual criminals who actually committed criminal acts that Congress should be concerned with. Hunter Biden, I don't want to downplay his criminal activity because I guess he checked the wrong box on a gun application. Like he was using drugs when he made the purchase and checking the box that says I wasn't using drugs is illegal. So I don't want to downplay that. You know, he shouldn't do that. That's not good. But it's not the same as aiding an insurrection against the United States government or taking advantage of people brazenly, sucking them dry of every penny that they have or whatever. Not the same things. There's total justification for Steve Bannon. You know what Steve Bannon did? The reason he was in trouble in the first place, you know what? He refused to testify, so that's why he was charged. But one of the big things that Steve Bannon got in trouble for was something called, was it fraud, maybe? He opened a fund called We Build the Wall, and he was trying to get people to put money to donate toward building the border wall. And instead of using that money for the border wall, he's just using it as like a spending account, just a slush fund. He defrauded a whole bunch of people. That was one of the big problems, and Donald Trump pardoned him for that. That was one of his big scandals. I have very little sympathy for Steve Bannon. I'm sorry, man. But okay, go on. Tell me more about how Hunter is the bad guy and Steve Bannon's totally innocent. I love how she's saying Bannon is innocent, but Hunter is guilty, even though in her mind, they both did the same thing.
Who both have been, the Department of Justice prosecuted both of them. So now we'll get to see, will the Department of Justice prosecute Hunter Biden when we vote to hold him in contempt of Congress?
Well, of course they won't.
No.
They're not going to do it. And then they're like, go ahead with.
So is it wrong or not? I'm saying if he broke some laws, charge him. I'm all for it. I want fairness and equality in the justice system. She's saying don't charge Steve Bannon, but do charge Hunter Biden. Is anyone else seeing the complete bottomless hypocrisy here?
With your little show, we don't care what you do.
Yeah.
We're power. We're in charge. We're the establishment. And, you know, obviously we're telling people you're on our side or you're not. And if you're not, we're going to crush you.
Right.
So what do we give a damn? We are Eric Swalwell. Don't you think it's horrible that Fang Fang just happens to die in a plane crash?
Who? Fang Fang?
Everybody who's going to say anything just happens to die in an effing plane crash.
Very
That's true.
unlucky.
Who is she talking about right now?
What
So
the
true.
hell? Everything's a damn lie. Hunter is a lie to me because I think that
A human being is a lie?
I mean, I don't know. You used to follow Q or talk about Q.
Yeah.
Oh no, QAnon. Oh, I love it, dude. I got to write this down. Roseanne and MTG talk about QAnon. I have this clip from Marjorie Taylor Greene since we're talking about it. This is from 2018. She might have just become a congressman, or maybe it was before she became a congressman. I'm not sure, but here's what she said about QAnon.
The fact, because we see all these sealed federal indictments, and we're seeing all these other things happen, and there's sources like he's anonymous. Q is anonymous, but he seems to be completely for the good. He seems to be totally on Trump's side, and he seems to be very high up and connected. So because of those things, I'm becoming more hopeful, and I'm not being as pessimistic, and I'm trying to stop saying that's never going to happen, because I really think it might happen. So I'm very excited about that. Now, there's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take this global cabal of Satan worship.
Cable, she said. It's cabal. She can't even, pronounce her conspiracies correctly. By the way, we know who QAnon was, or who Q, the poster known as Q. We know who he was. At the time that she's talking about here, it was a guy named Paul Ferber. He was on 4chan, which is kind of like Reddit, except has complete anonymity and is just like a cesspool of disgustingness. At a certain point in time, I don't remember when it was, not 2019, 2020, he moved to 8chan, at which point he had the account taken from him by the guy who controls 8chan named, oh my God, what's his name? Ron Watkins. Oh my God, Ron Watkins. Thank you, Jen has cookies. Is on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, Ron Watkins and his dad, Jim Watkins, is who runs QAnon currently. And none of the people that I named, Paul Ferber, Ron Watkins, Jim Watkins, none of them are high up in government or control anything. They don't have any special insight into anything at all. Dude just wrote ridiculous, nonsensical messages on 8chan and got people to interpret them in ass-backward ways that imply that he knows what he's talking about, when he simply does not. Anyway, that's what QAnon is all about. Let's see what they say about QAnon. This is going to be fascinating, because I think Roseanne's a QAnoner.
I mean, I don't know. You used to follow Q or talk about Q.
Yeah, I did.
I love you for that, because they're trying to shut us all up who know
She's a QAnoner.
something else.
That's right.
And we do
Nothing
know
wrong with
it,
it.
so F it.
I thought it was better than the news.
It is, and it still is holding sway right now, because it's
That's super interesting she says that QAnon's better than the news. You know me, I've got a clip collection that I know like the back of my hand. Let me find this clip. Hold on, I have it. This is it right here. Okay, this is from early January 2023, about 4 months before this interview. No, I'm sorry. About a year before this interview with Roseanne.
After you were elected, that was raw politics. But in fairness, didn't you also say around that period that you had been a follower of QAnon conspiracy theories and you had rethought this and you were no longer influenced by the group?
Well, like a lot of people today, I had easily gotten sucked into some things I'd seen on the internet, but that was dealt with quickly early on. I never campaigned on those things. That was not something I believed in. That's not what I ran for
I mean, she's just lying through her teeth right now.
Congress on, so those are so far in the past.
All right. You tweeted, I guess in late December.
Yeah, so anyway, she denounced QAnon officially about a year before this interview with Roseanne.
starting.
So it's just like she's lying here. This is just straight up lie, what she's about to say.
News.
It is, and it still is holding sway right now, because it's starting to move now.
Oh, really?
Because it said it would be drip, 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 flood of information.
Wow.
D-class. Okay,
This is so stupid, dude.
well, D-class, how's that happening? It's happening right now. The more they persecute Trump, stuff D-classes. Have you noticed that?
That's true.
So that's going on. But anyway,
We always fight about it because
he thinks whatever.
Well, no, I was part Q too.
I was saying, I think Hunter went and purposely left his laptop there.
I don't know if he did or not, but I think that was the best amount of information to ever come out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh my God, she thinks Hunter Biden left his laptop there. Why? What benefit could that possibly have?
we have him on Mann Act violations, human sex trafficking. This was prostitutes that he
Oh my God, dude. He didn't do any of this shit. Just get over yourself. My God.
was paying, flying them from California to Washington, having sex with them, recording it all, uploading it on amateur sites.
This is just like disgusting that Marjorie Taylor Greene is going down this road and saying all of this stuff. Like, this is just awful. She's just a bad person. She pulled up pictures of his junk on the House floor and showed it all over the place, made it part of the public record. Like, how low can one possibly get? Does it get lower than that? That's bad.
And then he would fly them back home. And then he paid for that through his law firm. Paid for it.
Yeah, again, I don't know if any of this is true. I doubt anything out of Marjorie Taylor Greene's mouth by default. But wasn't Matt Gaetz accused of this too? I think he was accused of this. If somebody did something wrong, I want them charged and sentenced. I want them to face consequences for what they did. Simple as that. If Hunter Biden broke the law, I want him to face consequences. Can she say the same about Matt Gaetz? She's trying to make it out as though Hunter Biden should go to jail for this thing, but Matt Gaetz should not. Dude, where the hell is this cat? There's a cat over here. This is like my least favorite side quest right here, finding this stupid cat.
Through his law firm and tried to write the payments off on his taxes.
Decency's on the ballot.
Yes, I know. And don't forget about the Senate staffer that just had
Yeah, that I was going to ask you about that.
unspeakable abomination.
Yeah, I have no idea what she's going on about, but I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. She's just a disgusting person, some of the shit she says.
In the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing room, and that just happened.
But you know, it's probably been going on forever, and they just were keeping it secret.
Probably.
I mean, aside from being corrupt as hell, I always
Who is they exactly?
call it, and you're exempt because you're one of the few that has any integrity at all.
The irony is so thick you can't see through it.
Which is why I just, adore you.
Thank you.
And how hard it must be for you. It's like, that must be like being in my writer's room.
She has a writer's room?
And over there.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Well, they're communists too, so
Yeah, they all are.
So it's all the
communists.
same thing.
It's like they don't care. It's the only thing in their head is any means necessary. That's all that goes through their loop.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that she's recognizing right now, she's acknowledging that ends justify the means mentality is evil and bad and not productive and shouldn't be done. But she's completely ignoring the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is an ends justify the means mentality type of person. She's willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish her goals, even if that means people suffer terribly or die. What matters is that she can, accomplish her goals, whatever they happen to be.
Oh, I'll do whatever. If I have to stop him by making up lies about him peeing on prostitutes in the hotel, it doesn't bother me. I have no conscience because I have to get to wherever. And to me, it's just so close to, hey, if I have to kill 6 million Jews to get where I'm going, it's no big deal.
It is
Hunter Biden sleeping with prostitutes.
a short walk.
That's right.
That is how they are.
They don't care. Speaking of that, the same Senate staffer, he was, this is really interesting. He was the same staffer that yelled at our Jewish Congressman Max Miller. He's a Republican.
Our Jewish Congressman Max Miller. There's only one, I guess. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. This is just wild.